Beach House and the panel regarding brands for good. I think this topic is extremely important right now because today's consumer is definitely in search of a new version of the good life, and one that does not have to trade off their own happiness with the health of the planet and society at large. Brands have no choice but to respond to this. But how do you build an authentic, purpose-led brand that aligns itself with changing consumption patterns? And what is the role of marketing in engaging consumers and employees effectively in the new version of the good life? And so 2 weeks ago in Detroit, Sustainable Brands had an event where Dentsu Aegis Network came together with 9 global brands to launch Brands for Good. And these 3 ladies with me were part of that. So let me introduce to you this fantastic panel we have. So we have Kirsten Allegory-Williams, who is the CMO of SAP SuccessFactors. We have Tamay Kipper, who is the member and advisory of Sustainable Brands, and our very own Anna Easton, head of social impact at Dentsu Aegis Network. And so, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's been a fast day already. So we've heard a lot about Brands for Good over the last couple of days since its launch. And so, Anna, what exactly is it, and who is involved, and what is the focus?
So Brands for Good is a global movement. So we are on a mission to make sustainable lifestyles more rewarding, more aspirational, generally more exciting, because I think historically switching to a low-impact lifestyle has been associated with compromise. So it's been all about giving things up as opposed to having things that you really, really want. So that's the real focus of Brands for Good. And it's a collaboration between, as Will said, 8 global brands and Dentsu Aegis Network who've come together, and they include SAP SuccessFactors, but also P&G, National Geographic, Visa, Target, really amazing brands, SC Johnson, that have come together to work together in a pre-competitive environment to really try and make a difference. And I think that's really exciting because even if you think about our collective employee bases, that's millions of people who can really start to think differently and make a change, as well as between us, we probably reach into every home and every individual across the planet. So there are 3 commitments that we've made up front. The first is to embed social and environmental purpose at the heart of our brand propositions. The second is really important because it's to use our collective marketing tools and resources that we have at our disposal to really make a change and help drive sustainable lifestyle. So this is not about CSR, this is not about philanthropy, it's not what happens around the edges, it's absolutely core to what we're trying to do as businesses. And the third is really, and that's at the heart of that, is to collaborate. So again, when you're in a room at launch and you're sitting there and you've got Pepsi, P&G and Nestle Waters, and they're all being really nice to each other, then you're onto something.
So Tamay, this all began with some research that Sustainable Brands did. What did it uncover?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Sustainable Brands, we did a good life research in 2017 where we asked people, how do you define the good life? What is good life for you? And the results were really, really interesting. So this was based in US. You would think that they would say having a home or having a car or having access to luxury goods, but that's not the case. So the people said they want more meaningful connections. They want to live more balanced and simple life. And they also said over 80% of it said they would reward brands that are helping people to live sustainable lifestyles. In the same time, as Sustainable Brands, we have over 70 different members, as Anna mentioned, with Procter & Gamble, SAP, Nestle Waters. They're having this tension. They're saying, especially Procter & Gamble, Virginia Helias, Chief Sustainable Officer from P&G, came up to us and said, this research is really good and well, but this is not how we are seeing in our data. There's a gap. There's an intent to action gap where people are saying that they do want sustainable lifestyles, but they are not necessarily going towards that. So they asked us, is there a way for us, is there an opportunity for us to come together and collectively inspire our consumers, our employees, to move towards a more sustainable lifestyle? And that's how the Pull Factor project, which is the building block of this whole movement, have born. And with the Pull Factor project, we are calling it Pull Factor because as marketers, we've been pushing content to everyone. But this time, as Anna mentioned again, we want brands to embed this sustainability, not a side project, but also really, really taking it in and creating a pull effect and having people come into their brands and creating marketing campaigns around that. So we did a lot of research, a lot of different interviews, marketer interviews, and then we came up with a toolkit, actionable toolkit, which has consumer needs. So what is consumer needs? We are thinking belonging, right? How are people acting upon their psychology, and how is that affecting their purchasing decisions? So belonging is one of them, having a simple life is one of them, and then we identified 9 sustainable behaviors that brands can tap into. For example, eat more plants, or go renewable, go durable. So these are some of the things that we take out as output and created this toolkit that's actionable toolkit for marketers that brands can really use to shape their campaigns. So that's how it came about.
It's fantastic. It's a great piece of research, and about making it actionable is really, really important. And so, Kirsten, to you, in terms of SAP, is one of the founding members as well. And so, why did you become a founding member of Brands for Good?
Well, we're so excited about the campaign because we have to address not only consumer choices, but also how we activate the entire employee base within a company to act as brand ambassadors and accelerate the brand promise that we're delivering with the campaign and actually making it a part of core business, which is, I think, something that you both said really well, which is this isn't just about an awareness initiative. It's also about how to really activate all throughout the business processes, the operations within an organization, and also the entire experience that a brand is really responsible for, whether that's within the brand itself, the product, your customer experience, and yes, your employees as well. And so it does start by bringing together not just chief marketing officers, but also chief human resources officers, the chief sustainability officers within an organization, and coming together to understand how to really close these experience gaps across your brand, product, customer, and employee experiences. Because what you'll find is that, oftentimes CEOs will have a perception that they are delivering 80% of the time a great customer experience. But when you actually ask your customers, 6% will say that they don't think that that they actually do. So there's clearly an experience gap that exists across each of these elements. And so one of the reasons we're really excited about being part of the campaign is to really lead and drive this employee engagement aspect of the campaign. That we can partner across all these brands who are participating in the campaign and really looking at our employees as brand advocates to extend the message. And when you consider that people trust the information that is shared with their professional or personal networks more than any other source, it's so crucial, as you said, Anna, that we really tap into this resource and amplify the stories and the people behind the brands that are making all of this possible.
Yeah, totally agree. And so, Anna, coming back to you. We keep hearing about promoting sustainable lifestyle choices. And so what specific actions changes are you recommending to consumers?
So this is a bit of a pop quiz because we have 9 sustainable behaviours. I'm sort of going to try and summarise them, and please jump in if I forget one. So essentially, making it actionable means being really, really clear and specific about what you want people to do. And the sustainable behaviours that we've identified were informed by the work on the UN Sustainable Development Goals, but also the World Economic Forum's Global Risk Assessment. And then we've looked at that through the lens of what consumers can actually practically influence in their lives, in their day lives, because some of those things are, simply beyond the reach of normal human beings. So the 9 that we've identified start with, for example, Tamay mentioned, eat more plants. And so, one of the things that we know that we have to do to reverse the worst effects of climate change is shift to primarily plant-based lifestyle. It doesn't mean giving up meat completely, but it does mean eating a lot less than we do today. And we already see lots of organizations like IKEA and Burger King. Burger King have launched the Impossible Whopper. How many people have had an Impossible Whopper? Have you? So I've heard they're amazing. So they even bleed or something, and it's beetroot juice. But I think that's a really brave move for Burger King. It's also a very savvy move because the market is worth for vegan burgers is worth $34 trillion US. I mean, these are big moves that they're making. And then they go on to reuse, go circular, go simple. Working my way through, but then we have some really good ones at the end as well, which is support women and girls. So this isn't just about environmental things that people traditionally associate with environmental change. It's also about really ensuring that we have inclusive and resilient societies, and that means supporting women and girls.
Fantastic.
Did I forget one?
Show up is one of them. People like
Vote.
to show up with
Yes.
their wallets and show up at the ballot box and go durable, buy better, buy less.
Well done. Thank you for adding those. So back to you. Why launch Brands for Good now? And how is it different from other initiatives that are out there?
The research shows us that people really want to live sustainable lifestyles, but there is no necessarily a framework on how marketers and how brands can tap into that and create something that people can resonate with. So it's the right timing. And I've been in the sessions, if you're all been in the sessions in the mornings, I don't know if it's a coincidence, but almost all of them were mentioning purpose, having purpose in the brand, having a good life, and really Marie Kondo came up about talking about moderation. She's the queen of moderation. So it's always about having less but better experiences, having a meaningful life, having a connection. So it is actually the right place and the right time to launch a pre-competitive collaboration with all these brands so that we can really shift the culture and then really reward the brands that are doing the good work.
Yeah. So Kirsten, you have, SAP have heavily invested in delivering, the global goals, and you have a house on the beach here at Cannes. So how does Brands for Good complement some of your other initiatives?
Thank you. We're so excited to be here. And, when we think about overall sustainability strategy, as Anna was mentioning, it goes beyond just the topic of environmental sustainability and climate change, but also on economic sustainability and sustainability for the society. So whether you're looking at how you're supporting the gender equality goal, or good health and well-being, or decent work and economic growth. So when you think about the diversity of your supply chain, the transparency of your supply chain, and whether or not you have forced labor embedded deeply within your supply chain. These are topics that all need to be addressed when you're thinking about the brand promise and the vision that you're delivering to your customers. When you think about moving beyond just the brand narrative and into your core business, you have to look at all of these processes, your operations, and the people working in these areas, and how technology can be an enabler to create the scale and the change that we want to see. And so that's one of the reasons why we're here at Cannes, is to really promote what we're doing with our partnerships that we have. In my business area in particular, we have an incredible ecosystem of partners that are dealing with topics around gender equality. So I'll give you one example. It's enough to talk about creating a fair and inclusive workforce. But look at the bias that we may have in our own communications, or the bias that may result in the construction of teams. So as you're developing a new product, what's the diversity mix of that team? And how do you know if you've got the right teams, not just representing from a geographical perspective, but gender, ethnicity, a multi-generational workforce? All of these dynamics can contribute to what ultimately becomes that end product that you deliver to your customers. And so, those are just a couple of examples where technology can really elevate the transparency that may be deeply hidden within your business, but might be preventing you from actually being able to accelerate the movement. So that's a little bit about why we're here.
Brilliant, thank you. So Anna, the benefits of brand and reputation are increasingly apparent. So as is the pull from consumers. But is there a business case for action?
Yes, so I was actually delighted in Deloitte. I think one of our most testy British journalists asked this question of Mark Pritchard and said, why did you get involved with this initiative? And his response was, well, there are $12 trillion, or 12 trillion reasons why I got involved in this initiative. And I think there was a really interesting piece of work that was carried out by the Sustainable Business Commission when the UN Global Goals were first launched in 2015, which sized the market at $12 trillion by 2030, and that's for digital solutions related to the media and communications industry. So that's the size of the prize for the people who are here in Cannes at the moment, which I think is really exciting. And if you overlay on top of that the market opportunity with going circular, which is valued at about $4.5 trillion a year, and then if you think about women and girls and the objective to support them, and in particular to support female founders, which is something which I know we have two people here who care an awful lot about. We have an initiative called the Female Foundry. By supporting women and simply closing the gender pay gap, we can actually add $28 trillion to the global economy. So these are phenomenal examples of the business case of sustainability. And I think as well, we will see increasing pull from the investor community as well. So increasingly, I would say probably, for example, FTSE 100 companies, at least 40% of the investors are now socially responsible investors, and they demand it.
And Kirsten, do you see the business benefits at SAP?
Yeah, absolutely. And recently, a couple of months ago, we launched a new initiative called the Thrive XM Index, together with Fortune, Thrive Global, and Qualtrics, to understand the connection between the key moments that matter within an employee life cycle across not just your career experience in a company, but also your health, your family, your time, and your financial experiences. These are the 5 key areas that make or break whether an employee will actually feel loyalty to your brand and is productive and innovative within your company. But as we talk to people who are looking at the overall human capital investments of our workforces, time and time again, how do you stack rank diversity? How do you stack rank gender equality? How do you prioritize these initiatives around good health and well-being so that we can bring our best selves to work above any other investment? And so what we've done with this new groundbreaking diagnostic tools, we're actually connecting directly the employee experience all the way into financial performance. So we will be able to celebrate those companies who are also investing in a great people and brand experience, and also how it shows up on the bottom line on the income statement. So there is absolutely a business case for this.
And it builds your employer brand as well.
Absolutely.
In terms of how you attract and retain.
Absolutely.
So, Tamai, do you see examples of brands innovating in response to consumer demand for a more sustainable lifestyle?
Yes, definitely. There are so many examples, as Anna already mentioned, but a couple things that I would love to highlight is, I don't know if you've heard of the Loop initiative, which is like the milkman model of packaging. So PepsiCo, Procter & Gamble, and Nestle is really doing this Loop initiative where they're not using plastic packaging anymore, but they're doing refillable packaging, right? So that's one way. It shows how big of the brands can go further to really do these things. Another thing, for example, National Geographic. We know National Geographic as a magazine, but now they really want their customers to take action for the things that they are rooting for. So they're doing more exploration. They're really trying to engage their customers to have an impact and to reverse the climate change. So these are a couple examples.
Kirsten, same question.
Examples.
Yeah.
So one of the best examples that I can recall is Tapestry, which for those of you who know the house of brands of Stuart Weitzman, Kate Spade, and Coach, they have a phenomenal story. Their CEO, Victor Luis, he says, we want to create a house of brands where employees love to work, investors believe in, and great brands want to be a part of. And they have created a culture around inclusivity, innovation, and creativity that extends across every aspect of their brand narrative and the way they design and develop products, as well as through their overall employee experience. So what they did is they actually created a people hub across all of their 22,000 employees in 15 countries, so that they could really have a whole unified workforce behind this vision and strategy. And I think what's so beautiful about the Tapestry story is they've really connected that internal brand narrative all the way externally into the products that they deliver to their customers. You ask any store manager or associate in their stores, they are the face of each of those brands, and they take that very, very seriously. And I've had a phenomenal shopping experience in each of those stores as a result, because they're empowered with the information about the products, they're empowered around the design team behind a new handbag that may be launched, and so they really are an extension of the brand and a beautiful use case.
Brilliant. Anna, have you got anything?
So two. One, I mentioned earlier, IKEA. I think IKEA have really sort of have their sight on the Holy Grail, in the sense that they are now rolling out plant-based food in their restaurants all over the world. In some markets, IKEA are the biggest restaurant chain by default of the fact they have so many stores. What they don't do and what they've discovered is they don't market it as vegan, they don't market it as vegetarian, they don't market it as healthy. They just market it as your $4.99 lunch, which comes with your drink. And in that way, they've been able to actually increasingly drive revenue whilst actually reducing their impacts, their planetary impacts, and that really is the challenge. And also, I must mention Stella McCartney, because I have been a huge fan forever, but I think Stella was a pioneer in this space. She's always made a low-impact lifestyle really, really attractive, really sort of, it's luxurious, it's aspirational, and that's exactly what we're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mike, it's been described as a movement, and are you expecting other brands to come and join along? And if so, who would you like to see here next year?
Absolutely, it is a movement, and we expect almost all the big brands, Fortune 500, everyone to join in, because brands really need to evolve to stay relevant, right? We've seen the landscape is changing, so if they want to stay relevant, if they want to really get the credit for the good work that they're doing, I'd love to see almost all brands joining this movement and really inspiring their consumers to have the lifestyles that they desire, which is living the good life, living sustainably.
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully this next year we'll have a whole other panel of customers to showcase. But I think that, sustainability is the ultimate competitive neutralizer. When we've been talking about the campaign with our customers, it's a pull. I mean, you talked about the pull factor. People want to be a part of something that goes beyond individual leadership. We're at a point in time and an inflection point where, what is our legacy? What kind of future do we want to leave for our kids and generations behind us? And this campaign has the ability for marketers to actually take a leadership role in driving some fundamentally transformative change within organizations and creating that pull factor across every line of business in an organization. I wouldn't underestimate the opportunity we have with this campaign. It'll go well beyond this initial phase one, but think about how pervasive the change could actually be when you bring really passionate, like-minded individuals together. Some amazing exponential impact is going to be the result.
Anything to build on that, Anna?
Yes, I think it's worth remembering that the marketing power structures have fundamentally shifted, and consumers no longer sit there passively being fed information. They are so much more demanding. And the research essentially says that 80% of consumers now expect brands to not just kind of be sustainable in their operations, but to actively promote sustainable lifestyles and to stand for something bigger than themselves. So I think brands have no choice but to change, and we're seeing I think this has been billed as the most sustainable can event ever. I hope you've all got your recycled water bottles. So I think we will see that shift. And if they don't, we have an attack plan, because obviously we have joint clients, so we will be going after them.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I wanted to ask whether there are any questions that you wanted to ask. Angela.
Hi. I think at the launch in Detroit, the thing that struck me most was the collaboration between what were usually very competitive. There was Nestle Waters and PepsiCo and P&G, which normally are fighting for hydration share of throat, were all combined in a common pursuit to lower single-use plastics. And we were in workshops together, and I thought that was really impactful. What I'm keen to hear from you is, how are we actually going to measure this? You've got your 9 sustainability goals, but what's the tangible measurement going to be? And I love the fact that you're measuring it for internal and for employees as well as externally. So I'd love to know about the plans to measure it.
Well, I can talk a little bit about the construct that we're designing this initial index that I talked about. Because if you look at just in the employee experience gaps of what you may be delivering for your employees to feel very active and engaged around sustainability, putting measurable goals around carbon emissions impact, your goals around women in leadership and diversity in leadership, having very clear stated goals from the CEO down is really crucial. But then it's about mobilizing and galvanizing at a grassroots level, which is what I'm talking about here. So there are some key elements you can look at, which is how the employee sentiment across each of the moments that matter that I described. You measure that. You also measure your human capital investment. So looking at your employee turnover, your retention rates, your productivity, absenteeism. These are very hard metrics that are measurable. And in an industry like retail, where turnover is over 50%, you think about that experience and engagement behind your brand, and if you're losing that kind of that volume of people quarter on quarter, there is an absolute financial impact. And then, of course, we'll measure customer satisfaction, NPS, as well as the hardline, financial results in terms of increased revenue.
And just to add to that as well, we've set up 3 work streams. So the founding partners, Dentsu Aegis Network is leading one on the evolution of marketing metrics. So actually starting to look at beyond reach and impressions to actually social and environmental outcomes and aligning them to our framework.
Fantastic. Any other questions? No. Otherwise, thank you very much, Tamaya. Thank you, Kirsten. Thank you, Anna. It's fantastic. We're really looking forward to working with you all on this and looking forward to some great results. Thank you.
Thank you well.